Holly, if someone yells "mama," that lets you put your knee on their neck. I mean, if it just does it twice, then and the officers making the arrest the second time didn't know anything about the 2019 incident. What's your take?
My take is that resisting arrest shouldn't be a death sentence in this country. And unfortunately, lately it's become that way in certain areas of our country. So George Floyd years ago might have been arrested, sure. But the fact is that none of the arresting officers, the defendants in this case today, had any personal knowledge of that. And whether or not George Floyd or the guy next door or the person next month calls out for someone or might have been high during an arrest has no evidence or no relevance as to whether or not they deserve to have someone on their neck for 9 minutes straight. So this is inflammatory evidence. We see it all the time. This is a classic move. We're not surprised that there's some victim shaming going on here. We're going to try to hear evidence. I'm sure they're going to try to get more evidence about, oh, Mr. Floyd was on drugs. But I'll reiterate what I said to you in the very beginning of this segment. Just because you're on drugs doesn't mean that's a death sentence for you either. Just because you call out for your mama twice in 2 years over 2 arrests doesn't mean that you deserve to die in that manner. So I have a hard time understanding how this evidence relates to the actual crime, the crime of a police officer putting his knee on a man's neck for 9 minutes until that man died.
The other motion filed today was from the state of Minnesota saying we don't want cameras in this courtroom. The judge in this case has already ruled that there will be cameras, and the reasons because this country is watching, and the verdict in this case matters, and people will be reacting to this verdict. And if this verdict goes a way that they don't agree with, if they didn't watch the trial, they'll have they won't have any trust in the system. Should cameras be allowed in a case like this that has so many implications?
You know, I'm asked this question a lot, and I have the same answer every time. When I waited tables and bartended, I was on camera every minute of my shift. A trial where men's lives are at stake, you better believe everyone should be on camera. There should be full transparency. We should see a fair and objective hearing, and we should see every aspect of it to ensure the fairness of this trial. This country needs
Ken's answers, we always get the beginning of them, but we know what he's saying, but then he kind of fades out. Teresa, Ken's basically saying, yeah, we need transparency. I totally agree with him. And if you're going to criticize the verdict and you watch the trial, that's one thing. If you didn't see the trial, you weren't able to see the trial, it's very hard to really appreciate why a verdict went one way or another. What's your take? Cameras, yes or no?
Yes, absolutely, and especially with this case. So, yeah, my simple answer is yes, absolutely. Yes for the cameras.
Holly, do you think there's a way that do you think the judge will reverse his decision, or is this a long shot by the state? One of the things the state brought up in their motion filed today was that, well, the Supreme Court doesn't have cameras, neither should we. Kind of seems a lit's light. What's your take?
Well, I think that appellate decisions and decisions made by the Supreme Court are a lot different than a trial, where you have the credibility of witnesses, you're taking testimony and evidence in a way that's different than the Supreme Court. I think there's two issues at play, and I think it's easy to solve them both. Yes, the country is watching. There's a lot of unrest that we need to deal with as a country, and this trial will be a really critical part of it. And if there's any healing that needs to come at all from this country and the race relations and all of the division that's going on, things like law and order and the due process are going to play a part in that. So yes, we need to watch. But I am concerned that some of the important witnesses here, namely the people, the eyewitnesses on the scene right outside of that mart that witnessed this murder, will have to testify. And already they're being bombarded by people in society and social media and being pressured. And that's something that we need to take into consideration. I don't think that concern, though, is going to preclude us from watching this on TV, because I think, again, that it's so important that we all need to see it. But I do think that we need to take some precautions to make sure that the witnesses are protected and their privacy is protected as best we possibly can. And I think we saw that in the Stefanko case. We were able to hear the witness, but we weren't able to see them, and they chose to not have the witnesses faces revealed on camera. So I think there needs to be some precautions taken. So I think there's a way that the state can win and the trial court can win as well.
Yeah, lots of things you can do to work around that. Ken, this is